All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I'm late by 4 minutes, but we're here, ready to go. Had a little bit of technical stuff we had to set up, but we are here. We are in D.C., folks, Washington, D.C. Again, for those that don't know why I'm here because of the Palantir Army-Navy game that is going to be happening on Saturday. Wi-Fi is good. Wi-Fi should be good. I think everything should be good. This is a good Airbnb. We got the setup. We got the Wi-Fi. Audio should be fine. So I think we should be good. And yeah, we're going to get started. I'm going to have a couple of special guests join the show at the end of the show here today. These are people that are part of the Palantir community. You might know them. You might not know them. But they have been in Palantir for a pretty long time. So we're going to be talking to them later at the end of the show. Garcia, for those, some of you guys know about, maybe you don't. And then Jon, some of you guys probably don't know about him as well, but they have both been part of the Twitter community for a while for Palantir, and they are here with me for the Army-Navy game for Palantir in DC. Not Adam. We're going to get Bergman back on the show. He hasn't been on for like 3 months. We got to get Bergman back on the show. Not Adam, but we will get him back on the show soon. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, folks, on this Friday morning. First of all, happy Friday. We are here at the end of the day. I've got some news updates from yesterday that we didn't cover yesterday on Thursday's show on the market close. That kind of surprised me, so we'll be talking about that. Pre-markets are looking pretty interesting. We got to discuss what's going on there. This is the big one in the pre-markets, and we'll discuss this a little bit more as we get into it, but Broadcom, 17% up, pretty wild. We were covering on the market close yesterday. I don't think anyone expected 17%. Apparently, they said something on their earnings, and they described like a $50 to $70 billion opportunity in AI towards the end of the call, and that question got a lot of attention, and they like doubled down on that argument. And the street upgraded the price target like crazy throughout the day, up 17% right now. 17%, guys. This is a company it was an $843 billion company. I mean, up 17% is not a small amount for a company that's pushing $1 trillion right here. But that's what you got right here on Broadcom. Now, what's also important to understand about this is Nancy Pelosi has 14% of her entire stock trading portfolio inside of Broadcom via in-the-money leaps that she bought a while ago and stock. So I feel like we kind of had it coming that this was going to go up, but now it's here, 211 on Broadcom. We got Marathon up 1.2%. We got MicroStrategy up 1.77%. Grab's up 1%. Adobe's up 0.33%. Robinhood is up 1% in the pre-markets. Palantir, we'll talk about them in a second. We got a new partnership by Palantir this morning, along with the Nasdaq inclusion potentially happening after the bell. So we'll talk about that. Archer up 4%. Bitcoin at 100,000. You got Costco that also had a good earnings. That's basically flat right now. Apple's up a little bit. You got AMD's up 1.25%. And really, NVIDIA should be up because of Broadcom. They kind of trade with each other. NVIDIA's up 1.67% as Broadcom is up a nice 16% on the day. All right, so let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. I'm Beneficial. What's up? Martin says go Navy. What's up, Martin? Hello. June, Scott, hello, everybody. Teddy, what's up? Ricardo, Ray, Garcia's the best. Okay, awesome. You know Garcia. I'm sure a bunch of you guys know Garcia. You guys will hear from him. He's really referred to as like the guy who understands memes in the Palantir community. So he just has the best memes. So we're gonna try to get some secrets on how he makes these memes. Harry, what's up? Amit, are you having an allergic reaction? No, but I slept late. I think I slept at like 5:30ish. That's why my eyes are a little puffy right now, I guess. But no allergic reaction. So we are here. We are awake. We are alive. And we are doing what I got in here late, though. I got in at 12 a.m. to DC, and then I stayed up till 2 a.m. talking just because, we're seeing these guys in person for the first time. So, but it's okay. When you have adrenaline, you don't need sleep. I can say that now. You do that in high school, I used to not sleep. In high school, I would sleep at 5:30, wake up at 6, get ready for the bus, and just be good to go. Now it's a little different. But, on certain days, you can sacrifice some sleep. But in general, it's you guys know, I need some sleep. Sleep helps get through the day. Why are you in DC? Palantir is having an Army-Navy game. They have it every single year. So Iliano invited me out here, and I'll be seeing him. We'll be getting to talk to him. That'll be really fun to reconnect with him. By the way, he posted this thing yesterday. This was like one of the coolest items if they actually get it on the merch store. But this is the piece of gear they have for the merch store. So this is cool. This is very cool. There's Iliano. I'll be visiting the DC offices today. I've seen the California offices, the New York offices, never the DC offices. So it'll be cool to actually see what the DC offices look like, and we'll keep going from there. All right, let's do what we got to do, which is analyze this market. Susan, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Pascal, Charles, Erwin, Gus, Andy, Nate, thank you, everybody, for being here. All right, so let's get started. I think let's start off with Palantir. Let's start off with Palantir, and then we'll keep going. Actually, no. Let's do this real quick because this is a really simple one, but let's do this one real quick. So, money market funds. Last week, money market funds was an increase of 95 billion. This came out last night. I forgot to check it because we had Costco and Broadcom earnings after the bell. Money market funds have a decrease of 451 million. So this is kind of a nothing burger. So it's okay that we didn't see it last night. But it is a decrease. We got a $451 million decrease from money market funds. Again, that's when you're talking about 6 trillion, that's not really moving the needle. But this is money that's kind of leaving the equity markets or entering into potentially the equity markets, but leaving the money market funds. It's just not enough for it to kind of be that big of a deal. We've got a lot of more macro stuff that I want to discuss. This is just one of the first pieces of macro updates that I wanted to put out there because this is what we saw yesterday. But yeah, money market funds, kind of a nothing burger. And I guess we're, decreasing by about $500 million. And maybe we'll see that coming into the market as well. Now, Palantir, let's get into them. So Palantir has a new partnership this morning. And the partnership seems to be a partnership in regards to FedStart, which is Palantir's government program. So the partnership is with Grafana. I've never heard of this company before, but this is what we've got. It is a leading federal IT innovation, Palantir and Grafana Lab strategic partnership. They published an article here today on Medium. I don't think they gave any specific details about like money or anything like that, but there is a little bit of details we can get from this. So reading from here, Palantir and Grafana Labs have formed a strategic partnership through the FedStart program aimed at revolutionizing the technological capabilities of the federal sector. This collaboration brings together Grafana's Labs' leading observability platform and Palantir's extensive experience in federal operations through the FedStart program, offering government agencies enhanced tools for data visualization, monitoring, and observability. The partnership includes mutual advantages with cost savings, improved operational efficiency, and enhanced support for federal agencies. This collaboration underscores the strategic importance of integrating cutting-edge observation solutions in the federal market. By combining our strengths, Palantir and Grafana Labs are poised to deliver innovative observability solutions that empower government agencies. I think it's less important to understand the nuances of the partnership, and we can go through that later. I'll probably make a video about it later. But one thing to understand that Palantir continues to find these smaller companies that are in the federal IT space or that are in the tech space when it comes to the government, and they're partnering. And I think the more and more we see these smaller companies working with Palantir, the more and more it deepens the government moat for Palantir, because it is very unlikely that a lot of these other companies will be able to compete if they're all working with Palantir in the first place, which is the point of FedStart, to actually work with Palantir. The more contracts potentially we can get from Doge also are beneficial for all the other sub vendors that Palantir works with, the partners Palantir works with, and then obviously Palantir itself, if it can get those partnerships. Now, in terms of Nasdaq inclusion, I think we are getting into the Nasdaq today. Ken says he uses Grafana in his job. Okay, that's awesome. So we got some people that actually know that company and that actually use it. So I think we're getting into the Nasdaq. I think it's pretty much inevitable. I could be wrong, but it does feel like Palantir transferred to the Nasdaq exchange for this moment to get included into the QQQ. MicroStrategy is likely going to be joining as well. Bloomberg Intelligence has Palantir and MicroStrategy joining. I think that's pretty much a lock-in. I don't know if SMCI and Moderna are definitely leaving, but some, couple companies got to leave for Palantir and MicroStrategy, and it looks like it might be those companies. Now, is there a world where Palantir doesn't get in? Yeah, but pretty much every news source has identified them as like the likely candidate to get in. Again, we literally on November 26th went to the Nasdaq exchange from the New York Stock Exchange in order to get, have a chance to get listed into the QQQ. So I'm pretty confident we're going to get in. Now, the question is going to be, if they do get in, will we see more institutional buying? Even if it's not as much as from the S&P 500. Some of the Bloomberg reports that I've read have said that we are likely going to see, the announcement will be after hours, we are likely going to see $2.1 billion of institutional buying from a portfolio allocation sizing for MicroStrategy based on MicroStrategy's market cap, its inclusion into the QQQ, and the institutions that have to get exposure to it. I didn't see the number for what that would mean for Palantir. And Palantir, again, is a different company, different market cap, different sort of area if it were to get included into the QQQ. So just in terms of like the type of company it is as well, MicroStrategy a little bit more of a Bitcoin proxy. Palantir is like an actual tech company. So I don't know what the buying pressure would be like. Palantir right here up 1% of the pre-market. I do think there will be buying pressure. The question is, has it already been front run from all the institutions that wanted to get in on Palantir anyway? I don't know. And so we're going to see. We're going to see. But whatever happens with Palantir is going to be very exciting today. And even if we don't have any major move in the stock, the fact that we would get into the QQQ, again, the Qs have the Nasdaq has, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta. This is what I'm looking at right here. QQQ. This thing is up 30% year to date. It's hard for an ETF to be up 30% year to date, but when you have the best tech companies in the world compounding, that's what makes it a little bit easier. Hitting all-time highs in the pre-market right now, and Palantir being included as part of that ETF is definitely going to be pretty exciting as well. Anat said, yes, I got an email from you, Amit, at 4:40 a.m. Yes, I was up at 4:40 a.m. I'm sending out all the sheets for the wheeling like show TJ and I had yesterday. I sent out, I think, like 100 of them last night, but I have to send out like another 300. So they will be coming up pretty soon for those that emailed to get the wheeling spreadsheet. But as you can see, as Anat says, I was up at 4:40 a.m. and I was doing a little bit of work. And then I think I knocked out at like 5:30. Drago says, Mag 8, here comes Palantir. Dude, this is going to get exciting. If we're part of the S&P 500 and the Qs, it's just going to be cool, dude. It's just going to be really cool to be part of those two ETFs. And it's, what it's going to do, in my opinion, it's going to create a little bit, and I could be wrong about this, but I think it's going to create a little bit of a floor to the stock. We're trying to normalize the 70s and really we're trying to normalize the 60s. And we've done a pretty damn good job so far. I mean, we've been in the 60s for at least a month right now, which is not bad. And I think we just got to keep normalizing it. How do you keep normalizing? Well, the big boys got to buy. And me, Garcia, and Jon, we were, up last night at 1:30 a.m. and we were kind of talking about the journey of Palantir. And again, we'll hear from them in a little bit. And it was so funny because we're just like, dude, like this thing was $6 freaking, $6 freaking. Now it's like 75. It's like, who's buying it? Well, it's not a lot of us. It has to be the big guys that have that money. And the fact that that's happening is pretty incredible. And really the fact that the story is so good, the growth is so strong, and the excitement is so interesting to get those institutional buyers to come in. That's kind of what we're seeing currently right now. And it's pretty exciting to see that happen. Rodney says, welcome to the DC office summit. It's the best Palantir office. I feel like you're a little biased, Rodney, but I love it. It'll be fun to see the DC office today and see what it's like. Could you put a brick background on, please? This is wrong. I should do that, dude. I should get a brick background and just keep that up as well. Cool. Okay, so that's the coverage on Palantir right now. Again, I will not be live for the market open, but I'm sorry, for the market close, but I will be tweeting it. Maybe there's a chance I will be live for the market close because I don't know. We'll see. It's on. Assume there's not going to be a market close. Maybe there's a shot, but assume like there's probably not going to be. But on Twitter, link in the description. You guys will know immediately if Palantir gets in on the Qs just from Twitter because I'll tweet about it. And we'll see the action in the stock potentially and what happens with Palantir. Just stream on the bus, dude. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. But look, I think this is not as exciting as S&P 500 because we kind of know this is gonna happen. This is the sort of pent up demand of is this gonna happen, or anxiety is not really there. But I do think the impact on the stock could be pretty important. So that's what we're going to have to see today. All right, so let's talk about Broadcom. This was a pretty incredible earnings by Broadcom. They beat on the top. They beat on the EPS. They slightly missed on revenue, but AI revenues are up 220%. Take a look at the price targets last night from Wall Street on Broadcom. KeyBank, 210 to 260. Cantor Fitzgerald, 225 to 250. Rosenblatt, 240 to 250. Bank of America, 215 to 250. JP Morgan, 210 to 250. Bernstein, 195 to 250. Evercore, 201 to 250. Almost all of them went up from the low 200s or high 190s into the mid 200s at that 245 to 250 range. And so that's why Broadcom is up 17% right now. Because essentially the market's saying, holy crap, whatever we heard yesterday on earnings is like really good. and we don't think it's like slowing down in terms of that momentum. And so Broadcom's probably going higher. Now, what did Broadcom essentially say? Well, pretty much that there's a massive AI opportunity that they don't think is going away anytime soon. So they beat EPS 142 versus 139 expected. Revenue was a very slight miss, but it's not that big of a deal, up 51% year over year. AI revenue was up 220% year over year for $12.2 billion in fiscal year 2024. And on the call, I didn't listen to the call, but from my understanding, the call was Hock Tan, the CEO, basically saying, yeah, we have a like 70 billion opportunity to expand this AI revenue over the next 5 years. And that level of, excitement is what got the street excited. Let me know who's in Broadcom. I don't think anyone expected 17% after hours, but 17% or after hours towards the end of that call is what we got. And I didn't even really see it until 4 a.m. today. I looked in the pre-markets and I was like, oh, I guess the call went really well. And that's why you're getting some momentum right here. Now, NVIDIA is not really following the way that you would want it to follow, but NVIDIA is already up 200% year to date. Broadcom's up like 60% year to date. NVIDIA right here, 1.73%. But it does go to show, okay, so Broadcom has a $70 to $90 billion AI opportunity that the CEO is talking about, and the analysts actually believe him. He's not just like saying it to say it, but the analysts are like, yeah, this is true. Based on the numbers, based on what you're saying, we think there is that momentum for you guys. That means NVIDIA is going to do very well next year because Broadcom still, to an extent, depends on NVIDIA. That whole semiconductor sector should be able to thrive if two of the biggest companies, in this case, Broadcom and NVIDIA, which are the biggest companies in the semiconductor sector, put up some of the numbers that they're saying they're going to put up. Again, NVIDIA is probably going to do 40 billion in revenue next quarter. They said 37, but they're lying about that. It's so funny. All these companies, we call it sandbagging. It's lying. It's literally lying, bro. Sandbagging. They're lying when they NVIDIA's like, oh, we're going to do 37 billion. No, you're lying. You're not going to do 37 billion. You're doing 40 billion, but they're like institutionally lying so they can get away with it. But if they do 40 billion, the street's going to be happy. The street's going to be very happy if that's the case. Peter says it's because Broadcom and Marvel do the custom chips and that's where the trend is heading. Yeah, we've seen a lot of partnerships with custom chips, whether it's with Google TPUs, what Amazon's working on as well. And that doesn't take away from NVIDIA's moat per se, but that does mean that the entire sector has a lot of more advancements just in terms of chip technology. And that should be good long-term for all of the semis as well. So that's what we got in the context of Broadcom. Amit, are you going to talk about the Figure robot? Let's transition to the Figure robot. So Brett Adcock, who is the CEO of Figure, he tweeted something yesterday. Again, Joseph Carlson had some posts about Tesla, and like 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and I commented, and he was complaining about the valuation. I was like, dude, you don't get the robot stuff. You don't get the robot like thesis. And he quote tweeted that tweet and he like wrote this rebuttal. And I want to sit down and write like a very long rebuttal. It's like a respectful debate that we're having. I just haven't had the time to do it over the past couple of days, but hopefully this weekend I'll be able to do it. And I don't think investors like him that are very smart people are using their imagination and being a little creative to understand what the heck is about to happen with these robots. And unfortunately, they will get left behind on the robot revolution. Brett posted this picture yesterday. A fleet of Figure 2 humanoid robots was shipped today, aka yesterday. They are being delivered to our commercial customer and will never return. Excited to be shipping humanoid robots into the real world. This is happening, folks. This is real. By the way, I'm just going to put this out there. All right. I love Tesla, but we haven't had any announcement from Tesla about delivering Optimus to a commercial customer. Like, let's just speak facts right here. Tesla has not delivered an actual Optimus robot to a commercial customer, because they don't have any commercial customers that we know of. And I think we have to know about this because they're a public company. We have to get at least some insight into this. We have no insight into this. We know they're working inside of the Tesla factory, which is good. That's great. But it's not like they have a commercial customer from all the public data I have, and maybe they are hiding it in some way, but we don't know if they're actually shipping to a commercial customer. Figure is quite literally shipping out robots to their customers, and those robots are getting into production. So this is not bearish Tesla or anything. I'm just saying, like, the startups in this space are working. They're getting deals done. The fact that they have a commercial customer, because Brett's saying that right there, means that they have actual like revenue theoretically, or at least like, some perceived type of revenue that might be coming in, and they're shipping out the robots. So I think that's very exciting. Yes, this is the case. Unlike Figure, Tesla can use their own robots, so there's no rush to have a commercial customer. That's fair. But the fact that Tesla's using them internally, the fact that these startups are now getting commercial customers, the robots are coming. And if the robots are coming, I think it is very important to then understand how do you get exposure to that if you believe in that TAM. And people like Joseph Carlson, which I respect a lot, they don't see the vision. Like I could even tell in his rebuttal. His rebuttal was like, well, Amazon has like, well, let's read his rebuttal right now. This is what he said. He was like, well, Amazon's working on this. I'm like, no, Amazon's working on different types of robotics and automation, but humanoid robots, the way in which you have to conceptualize what the future could be like for them. I don't think he's thinking of them in the way that he needs to be thinking of them. And this is where you need creativity. You really do need some creativity here. So he says, Amit believes Tesla is the greatest name in the history of the market. I respectfully disagree. Amazon has 750,000 robots right now in factories and is actively working on humanoid robots. I don't know where he got this actively working on humanoid robots thing, because I've never heard Amazon actively working on that. I know Amazon's working on robotics, but like full-on Optimus competitor, I do not think Amazon is working on that. You know why? Because Amazon invested in Figure. So I don't think Amazon's working on their own thing to something they already invested in, especially if, you know, for them, their market is not building robots. Their market is delivering products. Amazon just launched drone delivery commercially, controls 40% of online retail. That's fine. That's not answering the robotics TAM. The largest cloud player in the world, again, he's like, that's fine. AWS is great. That's not arguing the argument around humanoid robotics. Has the second largest video streaming in the world, third largest advertising business in the world, is the fastest growing. Amazon also operates in telehealth, pharmacy, yada, 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 yada. He's not answering the argument. My argument is Tesla is absolutely undervalued when you understand the humanoid thesis. If you think of it as a car company, it's the most overvalued company in the world. If you think about it as a robotics company that has the potential to do hundreds of billions of dollars in a net income, one day potentially trillions of dollars in net income, the multiple on that is many, many trillions, which is why when Elon says, you know, they could be a $25 trillion company of Optimus, I believe him, even though Elon says a lot of stuff. That's one that I actually do believe. So from that perspective, I do think it's important to have some creativity here, and seeing Brett actually post that photo just goes to show that there is going to be a lot of robots coming in soon, and those robots are going to be pretty exciting. BSOV right here with a headline in the chat. Switzerland has a fully approved autonomous vehicles starting March of 2025. Okay, that's a good headline for Tesla. And having said that, let's transition right here into Tesla. So Tesla's 420 in the pre-markets, up about 60 bips right now, 420.87. That headline is definitely good for them. Is anyone in Switzerland in the chat? Is anyone here from Switzerland? Is anyone? The Swiss Alps are in Switzerland, right? That has to be the case. There's no, the Swiss Alps have to be in Switzerland, right? Switzerland, if they're approving autonomous vehicles, I mean, they're going to be one of many countries, I imagine, that are going to start to improve them. And we're going to see some more excitement and momentum. And did you paint your eyebrows? I did not paint my eyebrows. No, I didn't do that. Why didn't Adcock mention a number? Well, he probably can't say how many, you know, robots that you know, I don't think he can literally give out numbers because, you know, they have deals with their customers. But the fact that they're shipping them out to me, I think is the most important thing. Sachin says, dude, Joseph guys is sophisticated everyday money. That's all. There are a few people who just don't add value at all in terms of insight. Yeah, I mean, look, Joseph is a much more conservative investor in terms of his style. And I think Joseph Carlson is a very smart guy. I respect him. But he, you know, he missed out on Palantir, missed out on Tesla. And I had a little podcast with him in 2022. And I asked him, and he doesn't do a lot of podcasts. So, you know, we're friendly, right? He came on my show. And I said, you know, why don't you like these companies? And his mindset is he needs compounding machines like Netflix and Amazon and Google and Meta and like these, you know, amazing Max 7 companies, which nothing's wrong with that. Salesforce, Costco, etc. But to invest in a Palantir and Tesla, you got to have a little bit more creativity. And he just personally is not that type of investor. And I think, you know, as much as Tesla at a 1.34 trillion is like, it's pushing it in terms of valuation. Same thing with Palantir at 160 billion. The future of what these companies can become is so exciting. And ironically, the companies he likes right now, Amazon, Meta, they were one day in the situation of Palantir and Tesla where they weren't profitable. They weren't like doing anything exciting. And you had to like let them have the time to grow and innovate with AWS and Foundry, et cetera. And now we're here today. But ultimately, we're going to have to see if that plays out for Tesla and Palantir over the long term. So I'll be giving a response to his humanoid robotics rebuttal probably over the weekend because there's a lot to say. But I think if his response is Amazon's working on robotics, I'm like, okay, that's not, you don't get it then. And I don't blame you for getting it. It took a while for me to understand the humanoid robotic thesis. But once you get it, you're like, okay, maybe this could fail. But if this does work, it's going to be pretty exciting. Let's get an update from what they think about Tesla as well. Let's take a look at this, and then we will keep going from there.
They're an all-time high. They're up nearly 70% since the November election. Makes Elon Musk not just the richest man in the world, but maybe on his way to becoming a trillionaire at some point. Dan Flax, Neuberger Berman, senior research analyst, is with us this morning. Dan, does the move in your mind make sense? And if so, how do you explain it?
Good morning, Andrew. I think the market clearly has an impact from Elon Musk's close relationship and growing relationship with Donald Trump. I think what the market will focus on, though, over the next year is really their ability to drive better unit sales in the core auto business, bring out a lower priced car. If you can bring out a lower priced automobile, that helps to drive demand in that segment of the market. And so we'll have to see how this evolves. Ultimately, I think what will matter most to the stock is growth of units. I think Musk will play an important role, but it's going to come down to the performance of the business more than anything else, in my view.
You know, we were talking just earlier this week about the fact that GM is
Having said that, you know, the performance of the business, we got Peter Thiel from Palantir, co-founder of Palantir. He did a really long interview last night on Piers Morgan. Here's what he had to say about Elon Musk.
I certainly would never want to bet against Elon. I would never want to compete head on with Elon. And probably a lot of what he says is correct. Certainly the Silicon Valley perspective on Elon in the 2000s was that he was starting these two crazy companies. There was Tesla, the car company, and SpaceX, the rocket company. They both sounded super crazy. If only one of them had succeeded, one might still have said that it was just extraordinarily lucky. The fact that to first approximation, both have succeeded, have wildly succeeded. I always want to say it tells us something that, Elon knows something about risk the rest of us don't. So there's some way it looks like it's this high wire, crazy risk taking act, and somehow somehow you can't have two companies succeed in such an extraordinary way without actually really not taking as many crazy risks as it looks.
So you got Peter Thiel, who talked about a lot of stuff. I actually watched a decent amount of that Piers Morgan interview last night. But the same argument right here, don't bet against Elon. Even Sam Altman the other day, right, said that XAI is becoming a legit competitor. You just don't bet against Elon Musk. Folks, we got a Palantir price target upgrade just now. Mizuho, analyst Matthew Broom raises his price target from 37 to 44. 37 to 44. Still a little bit under Mariana and Dan Ives, but we do have the price targets coming in for Palantir as they are getting upgraded. So there you go. Mizuho is upgrading a little bit of Palantir. Again, I think we're going to see a lot more of these upgrades over time as well. If Palantir continues to stay at this price, because then the analysts have to chase the stock. They can't just have the stock at these levels. So, or they can't have the price targets that much farther below these levels. So eventually they will probably get a chase, but we're seeing that a little bit with Mizuho. For those that are asking, I'm in DC for the weekend. I'll be at the Palantir Army Navy game. I'm going to be visiting the Palantir DC offices. I'll post some pictures on Twitter so you guys see what these offices look like. But I'm in DC for the weekend. What's my price target? My price target on Palantir, well, there's this thing called a moon. And I think whatever my price target is, it's probably located on that moon somewhere. Now, even if it takes a long time to get to that moon, it's probably somewhere located. I don't know. I don't have a price target for Palantir. I just think the next 10 years can be a really strong story as they reaccelerate revenue growth. Broadcom right here, 18.89% in the pre-markets. This is a big move, folks. This is a massive move. I am curious. All right, what do you guys think? You guys think this gets faded? You guys think this one gets sold off? I think this holds. I think when the market opens in 12 minutes, this holds. I don't think a 19% move gets destroyed when the market opens. Maybe it goes down to 14%. I could see a little 5% retracement, but I don't think that 19% goes back to zero here today. I mean, it seems like the street is pretty damn excited about Broadcom, and they're giving them the benefit of how big they can ultimately be. Speaking of Sam Altman and AI, here's a couple clips from Sam Altman at a conference yesterday. There's two clips, one on nuclear and then one on what happened when ChatGPT actually went down a couple of days ago.
ChatGPT went down yesterday, first time in a while, and I had to work without it for 4 hours. And I had kind of forgotten how to do that. And it really did make me think, like, man, we're going to be relying on these systems more and more and more. And this is like,
it's sort of the
it was a
ultimate-
crazy cascading thing, because like at the time we most needed tools to like help us solve a problem. We didn't have it. The thing was just broken.
It's like the ultimate critical infrastructure utility, for the world. The world's just getting warmed up on it now.
See, again, and they're right about that. Whether it's, ChatGPT or something else, it is really getting hard if you're, working with these tools every day to not work with them. And I think that's the momentum that we're seeing right now. Now, here's the thing about Broadcom. So this is the reason why shares are up so much. So this is from an equity report. On top of this, they went out of their way, they being Broadcom, to give investors a reason to dream, painting a 3-year 2027 picture with potential 60 billion to 90 billion AI revenue opportunity from current customers. That is why Broadcom is up 20% right now, because management on the call hinted to potentially $100 billion opportunity. Likely pointing to material upside versus current AI expectations for the company, and with more possible given 2 new potential customers currently engaged, if not yet ramping. Overall, the AI story seems to be really coming into its own. Perhaps Hawk might be thinking about shopping for a leather jacket. Maybe pulling off a little bit of the type of growth we've seen from a company like NVIDIA. So that's why Broadcom is getting the excitement that it's getting currently right now in the pre-markets. Okay, now here's one thing on nuclear. I know a lot of you guys are Oklo fans. Here is Craig Mundie talking about nuclear fission and why we kind of need nuclear to survive going into the AI era.
I'm a true believer in fusion. Sam and I have a combined common interest in one specific fusion activity, which we think is going to surprise the world by showing fusion electrical generation within the next year. And so while most of the experts in the world are still focused on sort of the classic tokamak and other type architectures, I think, as has happened in other fields, a small team of people who take a completely different approach are going to surprise everybody. And when that happens, and because of the nature of fusion, it has no explosion risk. It has no atomic fuel input. Has virtually no atomic radioactive output, and that's because of the specific nature of this approach. Some fusion things do have some of those problems, but this one doesn't. And we've already managed to get regulatory approval for it that says, this thing's not any more dangerous in your community than your local hospital with a PET scanner. And I think that will become the basis of a radical transformation of the energy system and the ability to deploy it rapidly on a global basis. And it'll be cheap power. And because of that, most of the climate change problem will be solved through the derivative benefit that comes from having, manufacturable cheap electricity at scale.
So, look, if you're bullish on nuclear, or you're bullish on just the concept that we need more energy from different sources like nuclear, that's one of the reasons to go long uranium stocks, nuclear, et cetera. I don't know if Oklo is going to be the winner. I think there's a good shot because Sam Altman is on the board. It's his company. But again, they're still very early in their stages. But the point is kind of what Chris talked about yesterday as well with liquefied natural gas. We need a lot of energy to get whatever we want to get done. So whatever sector you're investing in, energy is going to be something that underpins it. And we just need more of it because we're going to keep having more demand. Now, a couple updates on Trump. So yesterday we heard Trump at the New York Stock Exchange talk, and he was the first president apparently since Ronald Reagan in 1985 to ring the bell. And when I found that out yesterday, I was like, what? I can't believe we haven't had that happen, but that did happen yesterday. Not only did he meet with Sundar Pichai yesterday at Mar-a-Lago, that was confirmed. Not only did we meet with Zucks last week, not only has he been meeting with Elon's thinking of buying a property in Mar-a-Lago, he's meeting with Jeff Bezos next week. And on top of all that, Zuckerberg donated $1 million to his inaugural fund. Last night came out, Jeff Bezos threw in $1 million into Trump's inaugural fund. So you've got these tech leaders basically, I mean, what's $1 million to Jeff Bezos? That has to be like, I don't know, 35 cents to the average person, right? Like, I think the math checks out. That is a very insignificant amount of money to him or Mark Zuckerberg, which is kind of crazy because people work their whole life to like get to that millionaire status and stuff. And like these guys, it's like nothing. But the fact that they're even giving that money to Trump's inaugural fund means that it's kind of like a gift to say, hey, we welcome the new administration. Obviously, it's trying to get on his good side, but it's trying to create some level of a conducive working relationship between the tech companies that have historically had a more antagonistic relationship with Trump to a relationship that's a lot more collaborative and potentially beneficial for the next 4 years in this administration. Tech bros essentially kneeling and kissing the ring. That's correct. I mean, that's really what it is. But again, if you kneel down and kiss the ring and that ring gets you billions and hundreds of billions of dollars of market cap over the next 4 years, then I'm sure they're happy to do that. But that is one of the updates we got from Trump yesterday, meeting with all of these guys. And I think that's going to continue happening. He's going to continue meeting with a lot of more of the tech sector to get more and more input on what they can do to continue gaining momentum. Now, Bitcoin. Let's talk about Bitcoin. We will be using the bootleg cowbell today on YouTube because I don't have my actual cowbell. But yo, guys, the DC bus yesterday was not the most comfortable ride, dude. So first of all, I thought I would have the aisle and the window empty because for a good 10 minutes, no one sat next to me. I'm like, I'm good to go. This is going to be great. I can open my laptop. I can do a bunch of work. And then this lady comes in at the end, lovely lady, but she sits down and I'm like, all right. So, and then it's just like, I'm cramped up in this Greyhound. I do this Twitter recap every day at 8:30 PM. I write up things that have happened throughout the day and I have to type it up and I'm slanted trying to type it up. So it was not the best bus ride, but I didn't bring the cowbell because I was like, every time I move or my bag moves, the cowbell is going to ring. And I think people will get annoyed, along with people probably getting annoyed in this Airbnb where there's other apartments here. So no actual cowbell today. We'll have the bootleg cowbell. But yeah, getting to DC was quite the journey to end up getting here. Why'd you bust when you have Tesla? Well, I don't have FSD on Tesla. And also, to be honest, I didn't feel like driving for 4 hours, bro. I really just didn't want to drive. I just wanted to sit back and relax and get some work done. I got a little bit of work done, but yeah, it wasn't the most relaxing. But eventually, when I get FSD and I actually go on road trips, that'll be fun to drive the Tesla because that'll be fun. Because I can't imagine a better car to do a road trip in outside of using a Tesla. So yeah, that's what happened yesterday. Now Palantir right here, 73.20 in the pre-market, 74.02, up about 1%. We got 4 minutes until the market opens. You got Robinhood right here, 39.99. Look, Robinhood hit $40 yesterday, and we stayed there for a little bit. And then I think it just kind of got beat down. You had some people take some profits right here. There was no insider selling yesterday. There was some insider selling on Palantir yesterday. I think a couple 100,000 shares, nothing too crazy, but there was some insider selling there. For Palantir, there wasn't, or for Robinhood, there wasn't. I do think Robinhood can get back above that $40 level. Momentum is there. November metrics are there. They got all the price target upgrades, just being held down a little bit. But for those that got their bids filled yesterday at 35, congratulations, because that, I didn't think we would get 35 again, but we did get a chance to see it, which is not too bad. Now, Bitcoin. So Robinhood is up right now. Bitcoin yesterday had a little bit of fun, got to 102,000, then got all the way down to 99,000. MicroStrategy is in a little bit of a tough situation. It's not really getting that massive premium people want, even though it's already trading at a premium, but people want a higher premium, even though Bitcoin's 100,000. And one of the reasons that's not happening is because Riot and Marathon are now doing the Bitcoin strategy. Another company that's doing the Bitcoin treasury strategy, but they're not really doing the Bitcoin treasury strategy, is CleanSpark. So last night, after the market closed, we saw CleanSpark. CleanSpark's down 4.79%. And I thought CleanSpark had raised $550 million of convertible notes, same thing like Marathon and Riot and MicroStrategy at a smaller level, because they were going to buy Bitcoin. So my original tweet was, oh my God, CleanSpark, they're doing the Bitcoin treasury strategy. Amazing. And then 20 minutes later, you actually read it and you're like, wait a second, that's not what they're doing. Guys, they raised $500 million to buy back stock, pay down their credit line, and then pay for some CapEx. Look, maybe this can work. Maybe this can do well. Maybe over the long term, CleanSpark is diluting you for a good reason. But they already did 25% dilution back in March. That already happened. We already saw that. Now they did another dilutive event, although the dilution happens in 2030, right? Because that's when it converts into equity, but still it will be dilutive eventually. And the yield they're getting from this dilution, like the reason MicroStrategy does the convertible notes and then eventually it turns into equity, which is dilutive, no one cares about, is because the Bitcoin yield, that KPI that Michael Saylor keeps talking about, goes up. So you don't care. You don't really care because you're like, you know what? I got it into 400. Even if they dilute by 10 million shares, if it's at 800, I don't care because I'm up double. That's not what's happening here. CleanSpark is buying a measly $125 million of stock. That is insignificant in my opinion. Like no one should get excited about that. That's not going to stop the short attack. If they're trying to do this, like get the shorts to like refrain from them, I don't think the shorts are going to, I think the shorts are going to get more excited to short them as the like hedge to their MicroStrategy marathon convertible note long, because that's kind of how the institutions are doing it. They're going short some of these miners and long the other ones that have these convertible notes. And then you're not getting any additional Bitcoin yield exposure. Now, CleanSpark's one of the most efficient Bitcoin miners, which is amazing, but it's not the Bitcoin treasury strategy that the street's liking across the other companies that are doing it. So I don't know, dude. It's down 5%. I think if Bitcoin goes to like 150, 160, it's not going to matter. But Bitcoin was 40,000. CleanSpark was $10. Bitcoin is 101,000. CleanSpark is $11. I just don't think their strategy has worked out as much as other companies like MicroStrategy that have taken more of a risk, but they have had a strategy that has worked. All right, folks. Friday, December 13th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is once again open. Wake your ass up. There we go. The stock market is now open. Let's see what we got today. MicroStrategy 401, that is up 2.1%. Bitcoin 100,357. Bitcoin is up about 0.3%. Tesla 418, that's up 0.19%. Nvidia 1.42%, 139. Where's Broadcom? Broadcom 17%. It is holding the 17% that it had in the pre-market. So far, it's holding it. Wow, that is incredible. Broadcom right there, $212, 17%. Nancy Pelosi's net worth in her stock market portfolio, 14% of their portfolio is Broadcom. I'm assuming today with the 17% move, it's probably more than 14%, probably getting closer to 20% with this move. But that is a top 5 position for Nancy Pelosi, and she once again proves to us why she doesn't lose. Robinhood right here, 39.74, up about 1%. The Q's 530, they're up about 1%. Palantir 73.32, that's up about 0.10% on the day. Grab is down 20 bips. IWM is down a little bit. Archer, look at that. Whoa, Archer 9%. Archer got hit yesterday. By the way, Archer piqued my interest yesterday from an options perspective because of like the news they had with the Andro thing. The Archer covered call premiums are incredible. An $11 call, which is 40% out of the money as from yesterday's price, was paying you 4% after 1 month. Archer right there, $8. So, I mean, I'm thinking of this stock even from a covered call perspective next year because I think the covered calls can easily reduce the cost basis. And look, it is risky because there's not a lot of earnings yet, but there's a lot of potential in this one. And the deal with Anduril to me was a legit deal. Like Anduril giving them a cosign, I think is pretty exciting. It was a very unique partnership that they're working on in the context of military VTOL jets. So you got Archer right there up 10%, erasing all of the losses that they had yesterday. Also, Cathie Wood bought 5 million shares of Archer last night as well. Financials right here, 49.68. Restoration Hardware is up 19%. They had a great earnings, so that was great for them. Riot right here, up 3.8%. CleanSpark is down 4%. The market is not giving them any love on this convertible note. CleanSpark is down. Broadcom up 19%. Broadcom keeps it going. Look at Broadcom right there. Where is SoFi? SoFi 16. There you go. SoFi 16. I mean, SoFi should be above 16. Bank of America report tried to bring it down, brought it down for a couple of days. SoFi's back 16.20. Currently right now up 1.97%. Not bad for SoFi. Tesla right here, 418. Oklo's up a little bit. Bitcoin, 100,000. MicroStrategy, 398. CleanSpark, 1196. Broadcom, again, up 19% is incredible. Let's look at all the other semi names and how they're doing. Okay, so all the semis are red except AMD. I don't know why that's down 2%. SMCI, that one's just always random. That's down 1%. Intel, which is a mess right now, that's down 1%. And then On Semiconductors down 1.68%. Qualcomm's up. TSM's up 4%. That's because of Broadcom. You know, so Matthias said this in the chat. Everyone wants AMD to be the mini one to NVIDIA, the second NVIDIA. It's Broadcom. It's not AMD, bro. It is Broadcom. Broadcom is $1 trillion. Wow. There you go. 20% up. It has achieved the $1 trillion market cap club. There you go. $1 trillion. That is pretty damn incredible. And that's picking up TSM right here. That's picking up Qualcomm and NVIDIA right here, 1.26% as well. That is amazing, Broadcom. And again, AMD might be doing different things that are really exciting for chips in different areas. Broadcom's growing. Regardless of the investment thesis around AMD versus Broadcom, Broadcom is growing. AMD's growing. They're just not growing as much, right? Broadcom's compounding at 50%. NVIDIA's compounding at 70%. Or 90% last quarter. AMD, not at those levels. So Broadcom right here, pretty incredible. Dell 121 up 1.57%. ARM is up 5% of the day as well. I think Broadcom's taking ARM up. Marvell, look at Marvell, that's up 7%. All of that to me is happening because of Broadcom. That's not stopping now, up 20% on the day. The Mag 7 are all down except NVIDIA and Tesla. Amazon's down slightly. Google is, by the way, Amazon got upgraded to 265 at TD Cowen. We're going to read their price target increase because they had a interesting note on them, but they got upgraded. Google at 192. Google giving up some of the gains that it had this week. It hit 199 yesterday. Meta was at 627, and then Microsoft right here at 449 currently on the day. XRP is mooning for some reason. Let's check XRP. XRP is at, it's up 5%. Or no, it's up 2%, 3% right now. 244 on XRP, kind of going back to those levels that it was at a couple of days ago when it was down. Where is Palantir? Palantir is at 74.35, up 1.3%. MicroStrategy 402. Bitcoin moving a little bit, 100,620. Not bad on Bitcoin. Robinhood right here, 39.67, up 0.85% right now. Marathon's up 1.25%. Marathon, again, went from 18 to 28 on their convertible no raise. I know they're down from those levels, but they still are up from $18. CleanSpark is just kind of stayed flat right here and just went further down 3.4%. I do think CleanSpark recovers from this. I don't think they stay stuck at these levels for long. But as of now, the market is not happy with what they did yesterday, especially because the convertible note buying back their shares. They also have a clause in there where they can buy back the shares of the shares that they dilute, which just investors are like, so what's the point of even doing this at this point? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of investors that are just like, we want you guys to buy Bitcoin, but you're not buying Bitcoin. CrowdStrike right here at 368, Uber at 61, Square at 94.40. That was down about 4% yesterday. Chewy 32.06. Chewy did dilute by shareholders yesterday as well, or 2 days ago. So Chewy down a little bit on that news. The cruise lines are up a little bit today, up about 0.5%. Carnival Cruise down a little bit. SMCI down 2.6%. Coinbase is up a little bit. ARK is up a little bit. Netflix got upgraded to $1,000. They're down about 0.41%. And then Rocket Lab up 1.53% currently on the day right now on Rocket Lab. Archer's up 16%. Wow. I don't know what's pushing at 16%. There's not any new news. They have the Andro partnership and they got then they diluted yesterday, but investors don't care. Investors do not care. That's pretty incredible. That is pretty incredible, dude, for investors to see the news from yesterday, have it go down 10%, basically end the day down only 1%. So, it was barely down towards the end of the day. And then have this type of recovery. You got some momentum in Archer. Whether it's retail or institutional, you've got some buyers that are excited about Archer. Palantir will hopefully enter the Nasdaq after the bell today. So assume around 4:15 to 4:30, I think we'll be notified. I'll tweet it as soon as I get the news, so it'll be out on my Twitter. I don't know the exact time. I'm assuming pretty quick. I don't think this is like S&P where you have to wait till 5:30. It'll just be like a press release. So it'll be probably right after the bell. If not latest, I think 4:30. Maybe the real latest is 5 o'clock, but I'm sure we'll get it between 4 and 4:30. And then we'll know if Palantir gets in. 39.85 right here on Robinhood at 1.32%. Palantir, look at that. Palantir's up 2.3. 5 cents away from 75. Never mind. 75 is there. I think the market thinks that Palantir is going to have some friends that are named QQQ later today. I think so. SMCI, I think gets dropped. I think the committee is looking at SMCI as a company that can't file their earnings on time, and they're going to drop them. But we're going to see. SMCI right here down 3%. Oh, yeah, that's why SMCI is probably falling, because they might get rebalanced out of the NASDAQ. Palantir right here, 75.33, up 2.9%. You got a nice green candle right there in anticipation for that news coming out later today. Last year, the announcement was at 8 p.m. Really? Okay. Well, I guess if I'm wrong on that, you're going to have to wait till 8 p.m., folks. QQQ announcement rebalance time. Let me see. Why did they wait till 8 p.m.? That is a bit aggressive right there. If it is 8 p.m., I guess we'll just have to wait until 8 p.m. to see if that happens. Palantir right there, 75.05 currently right now. Do they notify the company ahead of time in regards to the QQQ news? I don't know. I don't think they do. Same thing for the S&P. You don't know until like it's actually announced. So I actually have no idea if they tell them ahead of time. I think it's just one of those things that's kind of like presumed. I like Palantir went to the Nasdaq for a reason. I think it's because they knew they would get into the QQQ if they went over to the Nasdaq. So I'm sure we're getting in. That's my thought. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we're getting in. I mean, it's pretty obvious just looking at it. Bloomberg Intelligence said Palantir is going in. The question is just going to be, does the stock react to them getting in, and do they actually get in? Now, look, I'm still not buying here at 74. I wouldn't be buying just for QQQ inclusion. $170 billion market cap, I still think is a bit expensive for Palantir, but the institutions will be buying, and that's all that matters. So if we get this today, then we'll have more toots that step in. SoFi right here, 1624, up 2%. Broadcom's up 19%. Broadcom really not giving away any of that momentum. Tesla right there, 416. Tesla's down a little bit right now. Robinhood just shy of $40, $39.99, up 1.68%. Grabs up a little bit. Marathon 1.55%. IWM 234. Adobe continues to fall. Adobe's taking a nasty hit, dude. 570 to 469 on Adobe. Lost 100 points in 48 hours. Wild. Absolutely. Look at that chart, dude. It looks like you're just like skiing down a slope right here. And it's because the street couldn't grasp on their generative AI opportunity. Now, we're going to go through some macro data in a second, but a lot of people that called this market massively overvalued, look at Adobe. Like in a massively ridiculous, frothy bull market, Adobe doesn't fall like this. Adobe just continues to get more money because so much money is around. Market's being smart. They're saying, we're not going to give money to Adobe. We're going to put that money to Broadcom where we see better growth. So earnings are pretty ruthless, and you got to be able to execute currently in this market. AMD is down. Is AMD down? AMD still down 2%. If you're joining the AMD train, I think you have to have a better reason than just it's down a lot. I think there's got to be some fundamentals around AMD that you have to be excited about. I think AMD will be fine long term, but yeah, again, I don't know if this has a quick recovery to like the 200s, but I think over time it gets back there. What's going to be sad about AMD is if buying NVIDIA at 140 versus AMD at 130, and AMD does better, or NVIDIA does better over the course of a year, even though you're buying NVIDIA at basically all-time highs and AMD at, relatively depressed levels from its peak in 2024, that would be tough for AMD shareholders to deal with, because that just means the market legitimately does not care about AMD's growth. But 2025, we're going to have to see, if valuations can continue to expand for companies like NVIDIA. Adobe really milked their customers, Kris says, and now everyone is switching. Well, my beef with Adobe has always been, I don't understand why you would pay that much per month unless you're a professional. Like, I'm a content creator. I am not a professional movie producer or a film producer or like a really cinematic YouTuber or anything like that. So for me, editing videos, I need some software to edit, but I don't need Adobe Premiere, And I think Adobe's like, well, the whole world, because of AI, is creating more content, is going to use our software. It's like, no, the whole world's going to use the cheapest software, the software that's free, because all they have to do is type in a prompt and they get their video. Maybe they have to cut off a couple seconds here and there, but they don't have to use high-level Photoshop or Adobe Premiere software for $30 to $50 a month. And so I was never convinced their TAM is that massive. And I was never convinced AI would be a tailwind for them. And I think we're not seeing a tailwind for Adobe right now. DaVinci is free. Yeah, there you go. There's a lot of other alternatives. Now, Adobe is a very sticky base. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you've used Adobe, you're probably not using anything else because you love Adobe. But for the new people to get interested in like editing software, I don't know how generative AI is a tailwind to get those people necessarily interested. Warner Brothers is up a little bit. It looks like they're spinning off HBO Max. That was the news yesterday. That's why they were up 13%. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad. That'll get some debt off their balance sheet, but I don't know if that's like the best news for them, because there's a lot of good content on some of these streaming platforms that they own. So I think market's still going to have to try to figure that out. Amazon's green. Alpha's green, up 3%. They got downgraded yesterday. They're recovering a little bit. Reddit's green, 3%. Hims is up about 0.5%. S&P 606. Uber 61. Google currently down 0.05% on the day. Cool. That's what we got as we open up the markets. Let's go through some headlines. All right, so let's go through some macro stuff. So I saw some charts over the past couple of hours that definitely were a little bearish, but we're not just euphoric bulls. We have to go through some of the bear arguments. So let's go through some of the bear arguments. Here is one of those bear arguments that is not political, but has to deal with politics. In the first year of a Republican-led administration, on average, it's not the best for equities. There's an extremely stark difference between a first year of a Democrat-led administration versus the first year of a Trump administration. As you guys can see on the chart, first half tends to be down about 2%. Now, having said that, the one administration that bucked this trend back in 2017 was Trump 1.0. So I think one of the things that the market is excited about is, hey, although in the first half of the first year of a Republican-led presidential term, the market tends to sell off, Trump in 2017, the market tended to do well. And so I think the market's trying to figure out, hey, is there a world in which, that can continue happening in Trump 2.0? And obviously the excitement and optimism we saw from Trump yesterday is giving the market some of that momentum. Here's another chart that is pretty interesting. The Magnificent Seven have now hit a collective valuation of over 18 trillion for the first time. Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, and Tesla. That makes their market cap, the 18 trillion, higher than the GDP of every country except the US and China, which is essentially the QQQ. If you're buying the Qs, you are buying the market capitalization of the Magnificent Seven to the tune of $18 trillion, which is higher than every single country in the world in terms of GDP outside of US and China. So the reason I show up that chart is because we're getting a little concentrated, right? We're getting a little concentrated. And if we're getting a little concentrated, the question is going to be, will that breadth expand? Or will the bulls just say, well, I'd rather, instead of put my money into IWM, I'd rather put it into Google and Meta, because I know Google and Meta are not going to go anywhere. But I don't know if small caps are going to be around if we have some hard times. Here's another headline that's really interesting. The UK monthly GDP growth, speaking of GDP across the world, in October fell short of expectations with a 0.1% contraction. The United Kingdom economy didn't grow in the month of October. This is not good. Why is this not good? Because Europe across the world and all these different sectors, we're seeing this in Germany, we're seeing this in all these different areas. It's just not performing. It's not performing as much as it needs to perform. And that's why a lot of money keeps coming back into the United States. Why? Because the US has the companies that are actually performing. I mean, there's just not that many exciting companies in the UK or in Germany or in France or in Italy that are really performing at a level that is so, exciting that it is getting institutional investors, foreign investors, Saudi money to come in. And if that's the case, then money keeps coming into the United States. The United States continues to get top heavy because all the money keeps flowing to us, which means we have to put up the earnings expectations. Now, because all of that money is coming to the United States, corporate executive stock sales, this is a chart that's been going around for a while, but it keeps getting updated every month because it keeps going higher and higher, have hit an all-time high. So this is the ratio of sellers to buyers in regards to corporate executives. And then there is the S&P 500, as you can see, as the S&P 500 moves up and up and up, and you can see at the end of this chart, corporate executive selling compared to buying has reached an all-time high. I don't necessarily think this is definitely like oh my God, that the insiders are selling, we have to get out. I think we've seen this time and time again. Like Bezos has sold a ton this year. Bezos sold, I think, $6 billion at $200. Amazon's at $230, right? Carp sold, I think, $570 million at $34. Palantir is at 75. So I don't think insider selling is the best metric to use, but it is one thing to note that Zuckerberg has been selling like 50,000 shares every day for the past couple of days in Meta as well. Insiders have been selling. And it's one thing to take into account that insiders are thinking these are good levels to take profits at. They could be wrong if they continue the growth, which I think will happen. But that is one thing that's going on right now. Tesla goes green, 422 on Tesla. Nvidia 138, Robin at 39.69. Where's Palantir? Palantir 74.40. Archer's up a nice 12%. Broadcom, wow, 21% on Broadcom. Holy freaking crap. 21% on Broadcom. Absolutely incredible. Did you see that the IBKR CEO said about market froth and margin calls at the Goldman conference? Yeah, he said something like he's waiting until the market has a correction because there's going to be a ton of margin calls, something like that. Basically, he was saying it's really frothy, if I'm not wrong. And look, I mean, I don't know if frothy is the right vocabulary for this, because frothy to me implies 2021 type of stuff. And I don't think this is 2021. I really don't. And Google at 18 times next year's earnings is not frothy. It's like, it's just... So I don't know if it's frothy, but there are things that are definitely up there in terms of valuation. And in a pullback, they could get a little bit of a hit. But I don't think that means that, they're definitely destined to have some epic crash or anything like that, like it was in 2022, especially in the macro environment that we're in right now. But yeah, there is definitely some overextendedness that's going on right now. Broadcom up 21%. This is incredible, dude. I mean, all they said, for those that are wondering why they're up 22% now, is we think there is a $60 to $90 billion AI opportunity over the next 3 years. That's what they said. And I have to go through the transcript to see kind of like how they explained it. But that statement alone, I mean, shit, dude. Every CEO should start saying that they have a $60 to $90 billion opportunity. Like, it's an opportunity. We're not saying we're going to capitalize on the opportunity, but the opportunity is out there, and the market's like, whoa, $60 billion opportunity, let's buy the stock. But whatever they said is getting the investors excited that they actually have a chance to execute on that opportunity, along with the acquisition of VMware. That's going very well for Broadcom. I mean, they're showing a lot of good results from that as well. And a lot of people thought that acquisition wouldn't work out. So if you put that together, you got Broadcom right here up 22%. And that's exciting. Isn't that what every CEO says? Yeah, but it wasn't just him like saying our TAM is big. I think it was him going into detail about like where they can pull the levers to actually capitalize on that market. And then they derived 60 to 90 billion, which to me is very bullish NVIDIA, but it's also pretty bullish Broadcom. I mean, it means that Broadcom, if they live up to those expectations, if they don't, they get hit. But if they live up to it, they probably go beyond 1 trillion. Right now, they're 1.03 trillion for the day. So now what are the most valuable companies in the world? Let's see. Companies ranked by market cap. Apple's at number 1, which is incredible. 3.76 trillion. NVIDIA's number 2, 3.4. Microsoft 3, 3.3. Amazon 4, 2.4. Google 2.4. Saudi Aramco 1.3. You would put Bitcoin in there at 2 trillion as well. Meta's at 1.5. Tesla's at 1.3. Broadcom's at 1.04. And TSMC is at 1.036. So Broadcom just flipped TMC as well. And then Buffett's $7 billion away from getting to $1 trillion. How has Berkshire done the past month? Let's check. How has Berkshire done the past month? It's down 2% past month. So underperforming S&P and the Qs, but year to date, still very good, right? Up 26%. Not bad. Now, a lot of this also is because of Apple. Let's not forget. By the way, yeah, I know a lot of you guys are Buffett fans and stuff like that, and I'm a Buffett fan as well, but and this is definitely using hindsight, but the Apple sell doesn't look that great right now. The Apple sell at 180, 190, and 200, getting rid of half his position. Now it's at 250. Again, hindsight. We're using hindsight right here. Now that Apple's 250, it looks like a bad sell, which is not the way you can, judge any investor or anything like that. So I'm just playing around right here. But it looks like if Buffett just held on to that Apple, Berkshire would be up, closing in on 35 to 40% this year, because they would have, how many shares did they have? Did they have like 800 million shares or some ridiculous number? Now they have like, I think 100 million or something. And he would be up a nice amount on that Apple. But they did sell. So, Buffett raised a lot of cash. Buffett raised 300 something billion. He hasn't really deployed it yet. I think he's waiting for like a pretty epic opportunity if there is some big correction. But at least right now, we're not seeing that right now. And maybe 2025, he will see that opportunity. Is Palantir still in the top 100 of market cap? Let's check. I think, where's Palantir? Yeah, Palantir's number 90. Let's take, I actually never checked where Palantir was at. Yeah, there you go. Number 90. So Palantir's number 90. Berkshire didn't completely sell out. I think they still have like 100 million shares, but they sold 50% of it, a little bit more than 50%. Or maybe they actually have exactly 50% left, but they definitely sold a chunk of it. So Palantir's number 90. It's above BlackRock. By the way, Larry Fink sold a ton of shares yesterday as well. That was his biggest insider sale in like 10 years, I think was the headline. So Larry Fink from BlackRock did sell $50 million worth of shares. $50 million worth of shares yesterday. So it was his biggest insider sale in the history of his tenure at BlackRock. So we're above BlackRock. We're above ARM. We're above Comcast. We're above Nextera. We're above a bunch of these guys. And then we're just below AT&T, Texas Instruments, HSBC. So we're number 90. Palantir is number 90. Dude, the Palantir bears on Twitter are so mad. Like, they're so mad about it. They're so mad. It got to a point where I had to respond to one of them. And I don't respond to these guys because I don't know. It's not worth like actually spending the time and energy, because I just feel they're so sad and they're depressed and like they're just like so upset. They're not enjoying it. They're just like trying to find a way to tear it down. And it's like, okay, you could be unhappy if you want to be unhappy. I just don't think that's the right way to live. But trying to find the response to one of them that I said. I basically said, like, aren't you bored? Like, you're just like, I feel like this is like, you're just complaining about the valuation every day at this point. Like, you got to be bored at some point. This is what I said. I think it was pretty respectful too. So they said there is a difference between rich and being the single most expensive stock in the history of the stock market with a market cap of 150 billion based on multiples, and doubtably so compared to its mediocre growth. And I said, given how upset you are at the valuation, I really hope this is a big short position for you, because this guy responds to every one of my posts saying that it's overvalued. And I'm just like, okay, I know you are short, but you're complaining about the valuation daily. Like if it's living rent free in your head, actually the rent is costing you all that money you're down on your short, because he started going short at $40. Last time I checked, 75 is higher than 40. If it is truly that bad, I imagine the short position is massive. I say this respectfully. If it's taking this much of your energy, then I would guess it's matched with a strong position to capitalize on Palantir's epic demise one day. Otherwise, what's the point of even talking about it? And he said, the size of the short depends on what you consider large or small given everyone's portfolio size. Percentage-wise, however, it isn't a massive short, and I'm only willing to size it up to 3% at costs that have not reached that yet. To me, that's just like that. So to me, I'm just like, okay, if it's 3% of your portfolio, why are you spending everyday talk? Why are you responding to every single Palantir post? Like you're not going to make a killing off of this, right? So it's like what at that point, there's like some weird fetish you have with complaining about Palantir being expensive, which is just weird in of itself. 2, he says, I did not post anything that wasn't factual. I didn't say he didn't. 3, as a market participant and student, it's my job to pay attention to high-flying stocks and study them, hence why I follow the stock and then later decide as a short. I agree. You can decide to short whatever you want and follow whatever you want. The problem is you're complaining about it daily and you don't even have a big position. So you're not even going to benefit that much if it comes down, outside of your like victory tweet of like, hey, I told you Palantir was expensive. And it's like, if that's what you're doing this for, like that's got to be a miserable life. That's got to be a miserable life to be waiting on Palantir to drop 50% so you can tweet, I told you guys. Like how miserable, how boring of a human do you have to be where you have zero ambition in life other than to say, I was right, Palantir fell. Now, I didn't say all of that. I could have said all of that. I didn't want to say all that. But by that's how I feel, right? That's how I feel. And I think at the end of the day, you know, people have to do something else other than just be afraid of that. Altman, take it easy. I didn't say all that, but that's how I feel inside. But this is what I think before I sleep at night. This is what I think about. But I don't want to say it as aggressively right there. So many miserable bears on Twitter makes me genuinely mad. Yeah, and look, I don't like call them out publicly or anything like that, but these are my thoughts. It's like it's just weird to be that obsessed with something and you know, want to capitalize on it when you're not even capitalizing on it. Like, go short, bro. Go really short. If this thing is the biggest bubble in history, go short. Like, go straight, like, make a killing off of it and then build your brand like Michael Burry did by calling the biggest short ever, the biggest bubble ever. But you don't really believe that, you know? You don't really believe that. And so that's why you're not doing it. That is why you're not doing it. Amit, what's your take on recent Arnie and Couch Investor sale of partial and full sale of Palantir stock? Did you see the live stream? Yeah, so Couch Investor sold out of his Palantir. Look, Couch Investor is a friend to me. I let me make this clear again for people that, because sometimes I got a message yesterday of someone saying, Amit, I sold 10% of my Palantir position. I'm sorry. And I'm like, dude, never apologize for selling a stock, especially if it's your money and your personal finances, right? Like, who gives a shit about what I think? Like, do what you have to do that's best for you. Number 2, I like Couch. He's a good friend. I've done many streams with him. He thinks Palantir is expensive right now, and he wants to take his 500% gain. I'm happy for him. That's not an issue at all. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with Arnie selling here and there. Like, it's not an issue when people sell. It is what it is. Like, people sell for whatever reasons. The problem is when people actively want to like take the company down because of their ideological beliefs on where the valuation should be. And then they become, you know, dicks about it, and they become douchebags about it. And then it's like, all right, then you're just like annoying right here. But if you want to sell, I mean, we had someone on the live stream the other day, so he said he sold 30,000 shares at like $60, and he gave a super chat, and he was like, "Thanks, Amit. It's been an awesome journey. I'm taking my profits right here. Congrats, right? Like, you deserve to sell. You deserve to take profits. Bitcoin right here, 101,000. But preying on the demise of a company to me is just weird, bro. It's just. I don't know. It's just, especially when there's so many catalysts that are outside of the numerical valuation, which means you've got to be a little creative to see why is the stock going from 35, 75. Either you think it's bull market mania and it's hoopla, which that's one perspective. I just think there's so many catalysts to think that's not. I mean, if OpenAI can get a $150 billion market cap and OpenAI is building a commodity that will be commoditized, I'm not saying Palantir is justified at 160 billion, but I can understand why they get there. And the short thesis can't understand that because the numbers don't make sense. But that's why the short thesis could also get wrecked. So I think that's important to understand as well. Are we at 40 on Hood? Are we at 40 on Hoodie? Are we at 40? We are at 40. Let's hold 40 now, dude. We got to hold 40. We got to hold 40. I'm tired of being in the high 30s. Although I understand why we're capitulating and consolidating in the high 30s, but I would like to see the 40s now. I would like to see us stay in the 40s. You have to admit there's some bull market mania. 100%. There's definitely bull market mania. And look, there are some Palantir bulls that are like really annoying on Twitter. There's some accounts that are just like they don't even know anything about Palantir and they're just pumping it. They're chasing the views, the cloud. I get it. Like that stuff's definitely annoying. And I can see that as a red flag 100%. But I still think using that as your justification to like go short and complain about it every day is just like, I don't know, dude. Like, shouldn't you spend your time finding the next stock to invest in versus like being so obsessed with a short position? I think it's a difference in mindset here, you know? It's like, I think ARM is ridiculously overvalued. ARM is trading at freaking 46 times price to sales. Palantir, I think that's the second most expensive under Palantir. Palantir is at 60 times price to sales. ARM is not growing, and ARM is a very important company, but it's not like, you know, I don't think they're going to be the next NVIDIA in terms of level of growth. I do think they're important. One of the reasons why they're this expensive is because SoftBank still owns 90% of the float. But I wouldn't short ARM. I would just like go take my 2 legs and walk over to the next stock. That was good. That was good. And if we had the cowbell, I might have rang the cowbell on that one because that was good. But you get my point, right? I just wouldn't be obsessed about it. All right. Speaking of AI, let's get into some clips from Satya Nadella. He did a podcast yesterday with Brad Gersten. It was a good podcast. I watched a decent amount of it. Here's what he had to say about various things around AI. Here's his explanation on OpenAI and their partnership as well.
The advantage we have had and OpenAI has had, which is we've had 2 years of runway, right? Pretty much uncontested. To your point, Bill made the point about, hey, everybody's awake, and it might be, I don't think there will be ever again, maybe a 2-year lead like this. Who knows? It's all, you say that and somebody else, drops some sample and suddenly blows the world away. But that said, I think it's unlikely that type of, lead could be established with some foundation model. But we have that advantage. That was the great advantage we've had with OpenAI. OpenAI was able to really build out this escape velocity with ChatGPT.
So that's the argument for why they invested in OpenAI and why they saw that escape velocity with OpenAI. Here's another argument Satya Nadella said on why they're optimistic for the first half of 2025 due to not being chip constrained.
Are you still supply constrained, Satya?
I am power. Yes, I am not chip supply constrained. We were definitely constrained in 24. What we have told the street is that's why we are optimistic about sort of the first half of 25, which is the rest of our fiscal year. And then after that, I think we'll be in better shape going into 26 and so on. We have good line of sight.
Are you still supply constrained?
So Microsoft's got the chips. They've got all the chips that they need. And because they have those chips, they're likely going to be able to execute against their ambitions. Again, they spent a lot on CapEx. They're going to continue to spend a lot on CapEx. And that should give Microsoft the edge that they need to at least stay competitive, right? Which is the whole point of buying up all these chips. You have to continue staying competitive with all the other hyperscalers. A couple pieces of news on Robinhood. So we got some new indicators on Robinhood Legend. So that was announced today. 12 new indicators on Robinhood Legend. That was announced today. So for those that use it, you can see 12 new indicators to be able to use. Kris, I'll call you in 1 second. Someone mentioned I was in the Robinhood video. Yeah, they got your boy in the Robinhood video. This was pretty cool. So this was their Investor Day recap. We're not going to play the whole thing, but they got me right there in like the 40-second mark.
Looking at the next generation of investors, tuning into what their specific needs and areas of concern are, rather than getting frozen in what's worked with millennials.
They got me right there. They got your boy right there. Dude, Vlad was so nice. He was like talking for all of us for 20 to 30 minutes. That's Vlad right there. That's me. They got us in the videos. That was cool. That was pretty cool. All right, let's call Kris. I don't know what he has to say, but he says to call him. So let's see what he has to say. Kris, what's up?
All right. That clip, that Microsoft clip where Satya Nadella says, I'm not constrained by chips, I'm constrained by power. Bro, that is 100% the most important thing.
Wait, Kris, hold on, Kris. I gotta get the mic thing set up. Hold on, give me a second. Let me make sure I can do this properly. 1 sec.
Yeah.
Okay, let me know, guys, if the audio is bad. All right, Kris, go ahead. Start over. You're good.
Okay. What we just heard by Sundar Nadella, that he's not chip constrained, he's power constrained. I think that is one of the biggest things that we need to take away from that. Okay, because he's not the only one that's going through that problem. So is everyone else. They have all these data centers, these AI data centers, but to power them is going to require a ton of energy. Have you looked at natural gas prices, how they've been spiking?
Well, yeah, that's what we saw in CPI as well, right?
Right. The key here is that we have to really stay focused on where the money is going to go towards investment to support all of this additional AI infrastructure, electric cars, all the other things that are coming online. And one of the things that, like I said, I'm doing some research, believe it or not, on some coal companies.
Coal? We're investing in coal now?
Coal, man. I'm telling you, there is a coal company. We will go through this together, but I'm telling you, there is a coal company that's really, really undervalued right now. And the thing is, I think a lot of people think that, the U.S. is done with coal. Like, no, there's still a lot of coal plants all along the country right now. And China and India, they're building out still more coal plants because they need to power their energy somehow. So right now, those countries, they can't rely on natural gas because natural gas is very expensive for them. They have to literally import it. And coal is still the most reliable form of energy production that they have. U.S., we're blessed, especially in the Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Tennessee, that area, with a ton of coal deposits. And there are companies that have mineral rights in that area that are just printing money. Okay?
What about the environment, though? Do you care about the environment with coal?
No, I care. Dude, totally care about the environment. The problem is, if you need that energy, you're going to have to get it from somewhere, okay? Like, yeah, I believe nuclear is the best option that we have, but nuclear is still like 5 to 10 years away from even being, remotely productive to the degree where we can add enough capacity to basically power the future. Like, think about it this way. If all these people are buying electric cars, where do you think that electricity comes from? It doesn't come from the thin air. And yeah, I mean, you could put solar, you could put wind, but even those things are limited by the amount of wind that's out there and the amount of sunlight that you can have. And then there's also replacement costs and everything else. So I'm telling you, there is definitely an opportunity in coal that we need to explore. Maybe me, you, Steve, and some bright minds can look at it together, and we can go from there.
So in terms of Microsoft, you probably heard some more of Satya's comments. What are you thinking about his take on where AI is going in 2025?
I mean, he's gonna talk his book, man. He's really just gonna talk his book. So I don't know. There are definitely applications now, application layers coming online, not just with Palantir, but other hyperscalers as well, where AI is being integrated into different softwares. But there's one thing that I actually had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. So one of the offices that we have is our technology and innovation office, and they actually spoke about fake AI products. Because what's happening is every software vendor that's coming to my hospital system, they're like, oh, we have AI, we have AI, we have AI. And the thing is, it's not really AI. But the thing is, the way that they're coming to our doctors, because what they'll do is they'll go to the doctors and say, look, I have the software. It'll make your life easier because of AI. And it's not really true AI. It's literally just some layered machine learning BS. And they make it seem like it's like true AI, but it's not really. So I think what's happening is the companies that have real software that's developing real AI, those companies are going to do really well. But I think the place that we need to look as an investment is actually in the hyperscalers. Okay, 3 hyperscalers that really do an amazing job. That's where most of that money is going to be coming in, and that's Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. Okay, I mean it's fairly obvious to me. Like, I would say we need to stop looking at these companies like they're technology companies and think of them as real estate companies, okay, with huge upside margin. And the reason why I say that is because think of what AWS does. It builds a data center and rents out the capacity to people, right?
Right.
What other business has that business model? You build a house and you rent it out.
Yeah.
You know, that's a real estate company.
Well, you know, it's also really interesting. Peter Thiel was on an interview yesterday, and you know, he sold a bulk of his shares at the Facebook IPO. And Piers Morgan said, "Do you regret that?" And he said, "Well, I underestimated how easy it is to go from 100 billion to a trillion after you get to 100 billion." So I think your point right here is that it might not be that crazy to go from 1 trillion to 4 trillion once you get the first trillion.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the keys is if you have this indefensible moat that's like just layered on with, like, think of it this way: what would be the cost of trying to replicate AWS, and who could do it?
No one. No one. It's GG. It's over. You can't do that.
You know. So literally, there's only 3 guys that can do this at the scale that's required for everyone, and that's Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. So as of right now, I don't see any disruption at all. But then again, when you look at the valuations on Amazon and Google, they're not bad at all. They're freaking great to be in. You know.
Why do you say so? Why is everyone complaining that Mag 7's overextended?
See, I think that's the mistake that a lot of people are making, because what it is they just see that high dollar amount, they see the high figure, and they're like, oh my God, it can't get bigger. My thing is, well, if you look at how much shares they're buying back, that means every share that you have is becoming more and more valuable. So even if the market cap only goes up by, like, let's say 25%, but the float goes down by substantially more because of the share buybacks, that means earnings per share go up tremendously, which means there's huge value there. You know, right. So think of it this way: if it's almost like a pizza, right? If you have a pizza with 8 slices, right, and you somehow remove 3 slices, and it's still the same size, that means that you're getting more. The slices that remain are bigger, you know. Right. And so that is what's happening right now. So people are really underestimating the power of buybacks, and not to mention, I'm telling you, the business that these guys have, literally, I can't see a future where we're not using more and more and more of capacity for cloud, capacity for everything else. Like, can you think of, like, in the next 5 years, any time where, you know what, cloud computing is going to get disrupted?
No, I think all of them, even digital advertising, like, they all have such large moats that it's hard to get rid of. So I would imagine you would be long the Nasdaq over small caps the next 5 years as well.
I would say you have to you have to pick and choose your battles. Okay. So right now, Microsoft might be a little bit overextended because they're trading at like a 42 PE, whereas Google is only trading at a 22 PE. So I think instead of trying to, like, you know, just buy like the Mag 7, just buy the undervalued portions of the Mag 7, so that this way you capitalize on that, you know, on that upside. And so what tends to happen is sometimes news comes out, and it's like, oh, search is dead. And then you look at the data and it's like, wait a second, no, it's not. Look at how much. Look at what's going on right now. They're generating more money than ever before. They got all these side bets. So Google is like an obvious thing. People are like, oh, like now Microsoft is around and Google is around. That means that AWS is going to lose market share. Bullshit. Look at the size of the TAM of the cloud computing thing. So even if they're maintaining their market share at 33, 40%, they're still the freaking giant elephant in the room. And their margins are better than everyone else, you know. So I think a lot of times people want to find that small company that can become a big company, and I'm all about that. But at the same time, there are times where in the market you want to go for safety. And I think if you look at what's going on with Apple and why it's done so well, it's because everyone is looking at it as a safety stock, right? So when the market is down, it's like, where do I want to park my money? Do I want to park it in a company that's barely profitable, or do I want to park it with a company that generates $100 billion in net income per year, that's buying back shares at the most rapid pace? And they'll say, screw it, let me go in with Apple.
Well, because you know Apple's going to be around forever. At least that's the perception, right?
Yeah. Well,
what do you think of Broadcom, 21%? Do you have any thoughts on how that's happening?
Man, Broadcom is my freaking white whale, bro. I love that company to death, but the valuations have always freaking got me, because you know me, man. I'm like one of those people that's like value, and it's one of those things that I wish I was a little bit different about it. But the thing is, like, it's very uncomfortable for me to hold something unless I see like true value. I love the CEO. Hawk 10 is amazing. The guy's business model is very simple. Buy great companies, strip out costs, make it more profitable, capitalize on returns, utilize that additional profit to then buy more companies and make them more efficient. He did that with VMware, did that with a ton of other companies, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. You know.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting, and the fact that they're saying there's this massive opportunity that they're going after is also getting the street excited. In terms of NVIDIA, do you think if you're saying these tech companies are going to last for the next 5-10 years and keep doing their thing, I'm assuming NVIDIA on that list, even if it is cyclical?
The challenge, see, that's the challenge that we run into with NVIDIA. Like traditionally, semiconductors have been a cyclical business, you know, where you have these moments of growth and then they kind of just like drop off and things go down. So right now, like even what Satya said, right? Satya said really shocked some people. They're like, wait a second, maybe the story on NVIDIA is something to reevaluate. He said, I'm good with chips. You never want to hear your customers say that, no, I'm good with the product that they're selling, you know?
Right.
Like, it's just not something that you want to hear. So it's, you know, it's something to be concerned about. But one more thing before we go forward. Broadcom. So a lot of people, like Google does a really good job with their TPUs. But you know who all did all the designs and everything? It was all done by Broadcom.
For the chips, for the TPUs?
For their chips. Yeah. So there's a lot of great opportunities out there. And Broadcom is probably one of them, but it's just out of my wheelhouse. So I love the company, love the CEO, can't get behind the valuations. It's very similar to Palantir for me, where I see Palantir and I'm like, I love the company, love the mission, but I can't get behind the valuation. And it's probably best that I stay out of it, because the thing that I realize now that I'm older is like, I don't want to lose sleep over my investments. You know, the stuff that I invest in, I don't lose sleep over it. I'm okay with it. And if I buy something like Palantir, bro, I'm going to be researching this every day. And I'm going to...
You don't have to. I do it. You can just watch my videos. I got you. You're good.
Nah, man. Nah, just, you know me. I like to do my own thing. And yeah, I'll miss on some run-ups. That's not...
Do you think Palantir gets into the Nasdaq today?
They could, man. They deserve it. I mean, with their market cap and just how much people believe in it and where they are, there's companies right now that are, like 10 times smaller than them that are in the Nasdaq.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
So why wouldn't you want to put there, you know?
Yeah.
Someone's like, I'm 5'2". I'm not 5'2". I'm 5'6". I'm a proud short king.
I'm 5'7".
5'7". That's right, baby. 5'7".
Yo, but it was so funny because when we met in Vegas, Carlos is also 5'6". So all three of us were just, you know, we have these big personalities, and then we're walking around.
Let me get my New York Timbs on. I'm 5'8.5", son.
That's how he tricked me in the beginning.
That's right. I lied on my profile when I met my wife. I was like, hey, babe, hey, I'm 5'8", but she didn't know I was just wearing Timbs that day. You know, that's how we do it in New York.
Dude, that's why I wear boots when I went to see Vlad. He's like 6'7". I was like, gotta somewhat get up there, you know?
No. It's all right. It's all right, man.
All right. Thank you, Kris. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time.
Take care.
Take care. All right, cool. So I want to show you guys one thing, and then I'm going to bring over the people I'm staying with here for the weekend, and let's talk to them. I want to show you guys this one clip from the podcast. I thought this was really important, from Nadella talking about how Microsoft missed out on search and where they think AI is going for consumers. And then we'll end it out with some guests on the show. Here we go.
Research businesses in the age of answers. And then what does Bing need to do, or your consumer efforts under Mustafa need to do in order to, compete with ChatGPT, which really looks like, it's broken out from a consumer perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is what you said last, which is chat meets answers, and that's ChatGPT, both the brand, the product, and it's becoming stateful, right? I mean, like ChatGPT now is not just, in fact, search was a stateless. There was search history, but I think more so these agents will be a lot more stateful. So, in fact, that's why I was so thrilled. Like, I've been trying to get an Apple search deal for like 10 years. And so when Tim finally did a deal with Sam, I was like the most thrilled person, which is better. It's better to have ChatGPT get that deal than anybody else, because we have that commercial and investor relationship with OpenAI. So to that point, the way I look at it and say is, at the same time, distribution matters. right? I mean, this is where Google has an enormous advantage, right? They have the distribution on Apple. They're the default. They are obviously the default on Android. They touch. So therefore, I think, and the habits don't go away, right? I mean, the number of times you just go to the browser URL and just type in your query, right? I mean, even now, even though I want to go to Copilot, I mean, my usage is mostly Copilot. And like, if I have to think about Bing versus Copilot, it's kind of interesting, right? Some of the navigational stuff, I go to Bing. Pretty much everything else, I go to Copilot, right? That shift, I think, is what's happening universally. And we are away maybe one or two of these agents for shopping or travel, away from even some of the commercial query. That's the time when the dam breaks, I think, on traditional search, when some of the commercial intent also migrates into the chat. Right now, mostly the business has withstood because the commercial intent has not migrated. But once commercial intent migrates, that's when it suddenly moves.
Yeah.
And so I think, yes, this is a secular shift. The way we are managing it is we have three properties in Mustafa's world, right? There is Bing, MSN, and Copilot. So we think, in fact, he's got a crisp vision of what these three things are. They're all sort of one ecosystem. One is a feed, one is search in the traditional way, and then the other is this new agent, interface. And they all have a social contract with content providers. We need to drive traffic. We need to have paywalls. Maybe we need to have ad-supported models, all of those. And so that's what we're trying to manage. We have our own distribution. The one advantage we do still have is Windows. We get to relitigate. We lost the browser, right? Even Chrome became the dominant browser, which is a real travesty because we had won against Netscape only to lose to Google. And we are getting it back now in an interesting way, both with Edge and with Copilot. Guess what? Now even Gemini has to earn. Like, the good news about Windows, for at least, is it's the open system, right? ChatGPT has a shot. Gemini has a shot. You don't have to call Microsoft. You can go do your best work and go over the top. But that also means we also get to, having lost it is great sometimes because you can win it all back. And so to me, even Windows distribution, I mean, I always say Google makes more money on Windows than all of Microsoft. I mean, literally. I mean, and I say, wow, this is the best news for Microsoft shareholders, that we lost so badly that we can now go contest it and win back some share.
Hey, Satya, one thing.
All right, so that was Satya Nadella on the history of Microsoft. I thought there were some interesting takeaways there. Folks, I'm with the crew. What's up?
Hello. How's it going?
All right, so this is Garcia. I'm sure a lot of you guys know him. He's King Meme Lord of Palantir, something titled. And then we got John, and he doesn't really show his face too much on Twitter, but he is the one responsible for every freaking link that we get early on Palantir. There's John's Twitter right there. I'm going to post that and Garcia into the chat. What's up, guys? How you doing?
I'm good. It's awesome
Yeah,
being out here in
it's
DC.
cool
man.
being here.
Let's get the mic a little closer to you guys. We'll just move a little closer right here. Okay, so these two folks, we were up till like 2 a.m. last night talking because we've all been in Palantir since the early days of. I was down 80%. You didn't get in all the way at the top and then have to DCA down. But a lot of us were down for a while. We all had to deal with those 18 months of sadness. And now we're here. Palantir's 75. We might get into the Nasdaq today. I guess we'll start off with you. What's the journey been like?
Oh man, with Palantir, it's been a lot of learning, man. Like thinking that I was going to be trading the stock in and out. I actually bought during IPO. I bought at 10.
Oh, you're in the DPO. Wow.
Yeah, sold at 11, bought at 12, sold at 13, just in and out, all the way up, all the way down, and never really accumulated shares. And I kind of had this realization last year where I said, okay, well, what am I? Am I going to be a trader? I'm clearly failing on it. You know, I was my all-time returns were like in negative 50% at that time. So I realized, okay, my only shot at this is just finding like this company that I believe in and just accumulating as many goddamn shares as I can.
Yeah.
Just do it and forget about it and just continue to do that. And since I started doing that last year, I got lucky with the timing, like just because it just happened to start popping, earlier this year. But I was fully prepared to continue accumulating for a couple years, So I just really got lucky with the timing, going all in, earlier this year. And now it's like the hot stock, in the market. Every time you go on CNBC, there's some new guy saying, oh yeah, Palantir is the best stock ever.
And that's wild because 3 years ago, we were begging.
It's been a journey.
If there was any clip, John would find it because there would be one mention every 7 months of like one trader for the last 30 seconds of the halftime show being like, oh yeah, Palantir, that's interesting. It's like,
now I can't even keep up with them. I feel like this is 10 clips every single day.
This is Sadler. Yes, John Sadler.
Yeah,
what has your journey been like covering Palantir, and how'd you get into the stock?
I mean, I guess originally, I heard about it at the DPO, didn't know anything about it. I remember sending my friends a text like, yo, there's this company, Peter Thiel's company, going public. Like, and it was just a long, deep dive from there. I mean, watching all these clips of Karp and Sham and explaining the whole company. And I mean, it's just crazy. I remember buying it like in like the 5s, even like when it was below 6 and it was in the gutter. And I don't know. Now we're here. It's been crazy.
We got Tesla 430 as well, folks. Congratulations, Tesla 430. Are you both in Tesla?
Yep.
I was. I sold for Rocket Lab.
That's probably my second biggest.
Okay, so before we go back to Palantir, let's get some thoughts on that. Why Tesla? How long have you been in Tesla?
I've been in Tesla. I started buying in like 2018, 2019 time. And it actually kind of started. My dad bought a Tesla in 2019, a Model 3. And he's like not a technological kind of guy. And so I was like, if someone like that is buying a Tesla, I don't know, you just start to see the adoption, seeing more and more of them on the roads. And that was kind of just why I started to get into it.
Okay, Garcia, why'd you sell Tesla for Rocket Lab?
Oh man! In hindsight, it's not.
Oh, Rocket Lab's done really well. Yeah, it's not like it's
it really could have put in something worse.
I guess so.
I mean, I sold Tesla for Purple Biotech in 2019, so it's a little bit worse.
No, but I mean, I guess it really just went down to conviction, where I guess I just wasn't sure about other effects. Like let's say China trade wars, or who knows. So I think with my conviction with Rocket Lab was just a bit stronger than Tesla's, and I kind of wanted to approach Rocket Lab the same way I approached Palantir, where I kind of just got rid of other distraction, develop a strong position, and then kind of start looking for the next, opportunity. But there's going to be so many winners in this market, and I'm very, very happy for Tesla shareholders. I'm not going to be dogging the stock and praying for its downfall, because I mean it's just they're gonna.
So let's talk about that with Palantir. So how do you guys feel about these shorts that just can't get enough of wanting to see Palantir fall? We all think it's extended in terms of valuation. We all agree with that. But what is your perspective? We'll start with you on the shorts wanting Palantir to fall 50%.
I mean, they needed to fall. So it's like, who cares, honestly? Who cares what these people think? I mean,
we are not going to Hooters after the stream.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
But like, do you think they have a weird obsession with wanting to see Palantir? Because they thought Palantir, like average guys like us, have made some money off this thing that we shouldn't have made in their eyes. Do you think that makes them upset?
I think people were bearish on Palantir when it was at $7, and I think every dollar it goes up, they become more disillusioned about what's going on. I think it.
Well, what do you mean that? Break that down. What do you mean by disillusioned? Why is something trading at 60 times price to sales? Why aren't we disillusioned?
Because we see the prospects, down the road, and it's like, okay, maybe it's expensive or whatever, but
I think the same thing with Tesla. It was expensive for a long time.
But what if it always stays expensive?
Right.
I mean, I think it's easy for them to be bearish the higher the stock price goes, but it doesn't mean they're going to be right. I mean, they've been wrong this whole time, basically. So
why are we not delusional, Garcia? Why are the bears delusional?
I mean, they're delusional, I think, because they do want to be right so badly. Like, I think because and I'm pretty sure they're very smart, where it's like they say that, bears sound smart, bulls make money. I think they must have very high IQ to be researching all these things and finding all these reasons for it not to be. But sometimes it is as simple as finding a good founder, no debt, a good balance sheet, and they're growing, and you're seeing the signs around you. Like, I put like a video like a year ago with TJ when he was asking me about it. And I said, it just came down to them working with so many different companies. And not all these companies can be like conspiring together with Palantir, like what was it, the oil company, you got like the military, you got all these different companies, they're not going to be gassing up Palantir for no reason. Like they're just going to be showing off the results.
Honestly, now that you say that was one of the first things I remember seeing was the BP old CEO was talking about buying 1% of the company.
Yes.
And I remember seeing that and being like, wow, like this is it's not so often that you see a company actually take a stake in the company they're working with.
Right.
That's wild.
Well, I just think it's exciting, dude, because again, this was not supposed to happen. Even Palantir, through their SEC filings, we could tell they expected 70 in 2029. We're here today. I was just at the company, and we're going to go to the DC office, all of us today. I'm sure we'll talk to some employees. The employees that I talked to, they have no fucking clue how the hell the stock is here, but it's here. And now it's about living up to this valuation. And I think there's a level of humility it takes to recognize that I don't think us and guys like us are pumping this thing to 160 billion. Like GameStop at its height, I think I'm definitely going to get the numbers wrong, but it wasn't 160 billion, right? It went from like 100 million to maybe 10 billion. So there's a big move, but still 10 billion is relatively small. 160 billion, we don't have that type of money. The big guys have that money. So why do you think the big guys are starting to chase even at these extended levels?
Besides the S&P, 500 inclusion, so everyone with the 401k with large cap, whether they like it or not, they're owning Palantir, they're buying Palantir over time. And you have all these people too who have been against Palantir, like let's say fund managers, and now it's gotten so big, like where Palantir is too big to ignore now. It's kind of like saying, oh, well, why don't you have Microsoft in your portfolio? Right. Or why don't you have NVIDIA? Now people are asking, hey, I keep watching Palantir on CNBC. Is that in our fund? Oh, no, it's not, because it's overvalued. And it's like, we'll buy it anyway. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure how this.
I think that's exactly how it's happening.
I'm not sure how the intercurrencies of all that work, but I think it just has to do with it's like the pure one of the pure AI plays. Like if you say the word AI, Palantir is basically in the top 5. You have other companies like NVIDIA, but Palantir being going to be the one to Carp said, what is it? Chips and ontology. That's the only thing that matters. So the chips is handled over here. Well, who's going to handle the ontology? Who's
going to handle the software? That's correct. Why do you think the big guys are buying?
I think they have to. I think they're like Garcia just said. I mean, they're having to chase the price. I mean, you see like the price targets going up, and I think they're just literally forced into buying this stock because they don't want to miss out. Just like we saw funds buying Tesla later on, compared to retail. It's like they don't want to get asked the questions of why aren't we invested in the number 1 stock this year? I mean,
and look, Tesla is the price targets that are chasing Tesla right now. They're betting on potential. That's it. They're not betting on automotive margins. They're betting on potential. I think with Palantir, you're betting on potential. So far, they've lived up to it to a decent extent. And if they keep living up to it, maybe we keep having this valuation and extending it. What do you think about Alex Karp? What are your raw thoughts on him as a CEO?
I mean, I think he's the most important CEO on the planet. Honestly, I think he's proven that over the past few years, and I think he really is the best CEO in my opinion. He's the only one who speaks his mind and is just unabashedly him, and I feel like people appreciate that.
Garcia, your thoughts on Karp?
Yeah, man. Like whenever I see him in conferences, he's not afraid to take down someone in a debate. Like he'll do a smackdown. Like he'll say why they're wrong, and he'll kind of go over his points, but he does it in a way where the average person can kind of connect with him. Like he doesn't use too many I keep forgetting the word, but he doesn't use like confusing words and terminology to kind of sound smarter. He just uses like regular language to kind of get his point across as to why the West should be protected, why the West should protect its interests.
And he also has the balls to say, like, America should make people feel safe, right?
Yeah.
And most CEOs don't even want to say so. I think that's changing, but he was the first one to say that a couple years ago, and now people are getting excited about that. What do you guys feel has been the coolest thing about this process community-wise? Because I think someone said right here, one of the things the shorts don't understand is that there's a really big community part of Palantir. What's been the most rewarding part of being part of the community?
Oh man, dude! So honestly, connecting with all of you guys, connecting with everyone, and then people from Twitter who I still haven't met yet. I'm still looking forward to meeting everyone who I've been kind of connecting with online. And it's so easy. Once we've kind of been chatting and kind of getting to know each other for all this time, you know, once you meet each other in person, it's just so.
Yeah, we talked
so
for 2
easy.
hours last night. Like we knew, like we were best buds.
I was gonna say, like last night, I feel like we all met at like midnight, and it feels like I've known you guys for years at this point. I mean, it's a special thing, and there's really only, I mean, there's the Tesla community, and then there's us, and I feel like, you know, those are the top 2 ones, and I feel like it's been special just to be a part of and meeting all you guys, and yeah, it's been cool.
It's been really cool, dude. Because again, I've said this, and I know I get like cheesy, emotional about this, but like the greatest things from Palantir, I don't think it's going to be the gains. I think it's going to be the friendships, the relationships
that
you
we
build
made along the way,
the friends you made along the way. Because eventually, you know, you die and you can't take your money with you. So it's like, did you enjoy the process of life? And it's very rare that one thing attracts, at this point, I would say, millions of people. In 2022, it was maybe tens of thousands of people, but millions of people around this one concept, which is a company that is a metaphor for all these other things that we all care about. And I think the most beautiful thing is average people, all of us are average guys, have been able to make some life-changing money with this company. And that only happened with Tesla that I know of, right?
Yeah.
And so if it's happening with Palantir, then I think that's really special. Where do you think the trajectory of Palantir is over the next 5 years? Not just the stock, but this community and where the world is going towards when it comes to AI.
Oh man, like I think with the company in general, I really can't guess the price action because it went up way higher than I could have anticipated in this year. So for me to try to make a guess in the next 5 years, I mean, I'll probably be super wrong. You know, I think it might trade sideways in the 70s, 80s, and it's going to continue climbing up, you know, to who knows what. I honestly can't even, you know.
If we get a correction, where do you think it corrects to? If we were to get a correction? Like, where's the floor, do you think, for Palantir? I'm thinking it's 45 to 50 if it's a really bad correction.
I was going to say high 40s. I was going to say high 40s or 50s, but I think so. But, dude, it dipped down to, like, the 60s, and then just, boom, rocketed back up. And it's just so hard to, to continue building the position like I've been building, you know, Rocket Lab position. But I do want to slowly continue building out, you know, adding to the Palantir position. But in general, as far as the world, the country, I'm so glad that Palantir is kind of at the forefront of that. You know, that their policies, the way they think about the West is going to be influencing American politics going forward for the next 4 years at least.
Where do you think the future is for Palantir?
I think Karp said that they're going to take the whole market, and I think they're going to take the whole market. And I think I think he's, you know, a lot of the reason I post these older clips is because I like showing people that, you know, Karp, Lonsdale, Sham, they all have been saying the same thing for 2 decades. And they, for the most part, have been right about a lot of that stuff. And I think people hear Karp say something like, we're going to take the whole market, and they don't believe him. And I believe him. I really do.
And the level of confidence he speaks with also, I think, is one of those things that gets the whole market excited, right? Yeah. And it's like, you got to have a CEO who can actually talk. And, you know, I think he's one of those CEOs that can talk. In terms of the merchandise and the hats and the, you know, the merch store, what is your take on that? Is that cringy? Is that clownish that we're wearing Palantir gear? Or is that just a resemblance of a growing community?
Dude, I mean, the logo's sick. the logo is good, and the quality of the merch has been good. So it's just, but honestly, it's for what it stands for. Like, it's really just the ideals of Palantir and like what they believe in. I align with those beliefs. So that's basically the number one reason. And number two, it's just it is like a good logo. Like if it was giant, you know, words on the front, you know, big Palantir, I might not wear it as often. But I mean, it's a, you know, low-key logo, and I like it.
I think pretty soon half my closet is going to be Palantir, honestly.
Yeah, Ileano keeps hooking us up.
The hat was not the top. That's right.
The hat was not the top, folks. That came out at $24. It was not the top. It was not the top. Okay, can you give us guys some alpha? So what else are you investing in that you are excited besides Palantir? And guys, I'm putting John and Garcia's Twitter in the description and YouTube, so please make sure to check them out. But John, what are you looking at outside of Palantir?
I would say after Palantir, after Tesla, really Rocket Lab is my third biggest position.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, to boil it down, it really comes down to Peter Beck. I mean, I think with the space industry, you need a leader who actually understands the engineering and who who knows how to, correctly allocate capital. And one of the things he always says is, we had no money, so we had to think. And I feel like that's the mentality.
He also said after a hard day at work, he likes to go down and stroke his rocket.
Yeah, I did find that actually clip.
That made me really want to invest. And I'm sad. I as soon as I saw that quote, I think it was $15, I should have just pulled the trigger. So that's my gut. I need to invest. Why are you into Rocket Lab?
Oh, man. And I think it's the same with Palantir, where I started accumulating and just took off so quickly. So I am a little annoyed that I wasn't able to accumulate more in the tens. But I'm seeing the valuation of SpaceX, Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos talking about the potential, and seeing Rocket Lab as cementing itself as the number 2, space company out there. And like John was saying, is that Peter Beck is an engineer. He's the main head engineer. So the other engineers are not going to be able to BS him with, we're having delays on Neutron because we just can't do this. He can actually find out what the problem is. He can get in there and solve the problems. And they've shown it with how they've accelerated like the Electron launches. They're going after the Falcon. They're going to compete against Falcon 9. And Falcon 9 is just such a huge market. Like it helps out so many customers. And I think
you think they're a little mini SpaceX in the making, is what you think?
I think so. And I'm not expecting them to equal SpaceX, because SpaceX is so far ahead with satellites and Starlink. But Peter Beck said that Neutron is that next step into their space systems, into satellites, into them launching their own things in orbit. So that's going to be starting to be baked into their valuation as well. Like,
going off that, one of the things that Peter Beck said, I think it was last year, that all things that were launched into orbit last year, 38% of them had a Rocket Lab logo on it. And I mean, I heard that and I'm like, I don't think people realize that. It's not just about, I think a lot of the attention goes to the actual launches and things like that. But, there's all of these components that go into the space industry that is a growing industry.
Where do you think the floor is on Rocket Lab? If we have a correction, we go back to $10. I wouldn't be upset about that.
I'd be buying if it was at $10.
I mean, could we dip below 20? Yeah, I think that's possible, but you got a lot of dip buyers. Yeah. I mean, there's a cult that's being formed around Rocket Lab, right? Like a real cult. Okay, last question for you guys. Thank you everybody for joining today. We got to get out of here because we're going to get kicked out of the Airbnb pretty soon. But everyone's Twitter is in the description, and Garcia's YouTube right here, he does a daily portfolio update as well, is in the description. How are you guys managing your portfolios with your life? So you're about to get married. Congrats. Yeah. You are married. You have a kid. You guys have responsibilities. Palantir has made some life-changing money for both of you guys. How are you thinking of holding versus trimming versus like getting ready for the new year, potentially thinking we get a pullback? How are you thinking of your own economic position right now?
Well, I told my fiance that we're not allowed to sell the Palantir to pay for this wedding. We'll sell anything else.
What was her reaction to that? What was her reaction?
She loves Palantir. I actually got her, like, I kind of manage her investing portfolio. And it's
what do you mean manage? You mean you log into her account?
Like I log into her and buy stuff with her own money. And
so it's basically your account. But
I'm like, now it's actually, she's made a crazy amount of money. It's basically all in Tesla, Rocket Lab, and Palantir. And
So she understands your commitment to not wanting to sell. Does she ever nudge you to think, hey, honey, like we should sell?
Yeah, I mean, the past couple of weeks, months, I've been updating her with our portfolio size, and she's like, John, are we like, do you know what you're doing? And I'm like, I think so.
It's like, not really, but like, Carp said we're taking the market, baby.
Yeah, I mean, we're not selling until we take the whole market. That's how I told them.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because I know it's the same for a lot of people. So how are you dealing with your wife?
Oh man, like, dude, she has actually. There's been moments where I actually thought, maybe we can just pull a little bit out to kind of pay for these big expenses that we're kind of thinking of, and she's just said, let's just keep it and let's just hold it on.
Oh, so she wants you to hold them.
Yeah. And I was talking about just a small position, but that brought a tear to my eye when she said that. I was like, oh my God. Like I was saying this because I thought she was getting nervous about it. But the fact that she was saying, no, let's just continue fucking holding. Like that brought a tear to my eye, dude. Like, so I give her so much crap too for calling it Palantir once. So now I'm just like, that's a kind of inside joke. But I mean, man, like I have been trimming a tiny bit. Like I used to have like over 3,000 shares. Now I have 2,500.
Yeah.
But I do expect those trimmings to kind of slow down significantly because I do want this to be a big position throughout, until they take the entire market. Like I do want that to be a very, very strong position in the portfolio. But I have been moving a little bit into Rocket Lab. Like I did sell some shares that were over a year old. So I took advantage of the long-term capital gains. And then I moved that money into Rocket Lab, at 15, 17, 20. And at this point, I'm just going to start selling very, very out of the money covered calls on Palantir and Rocket Lab and just continue accumulating shares and
companies. Well, you've become an option seller this year. So you actually know how to navigate collecting income as well. So I think, and that's probably impressed your wife because you're using your money to make money without having to like gamble on, things going up, but rather being the casino here. I'm sure that's like,
dude, I mean, we haven't deposited a single dollar into even though I should have, but our wages kind of in Arkansas did drop.
Yeah.
So our financial situation was very, very different than it was in California. In California, we're making so much more money. Whereas here, now we're having to budget a lot more and we're not able to save as much. So we're basically saving in the savings account, but we haven't been able to put away money into the brokerage account.
Right.
All of the money that's been deposited into brokerage was just off of cash secured put premium, covered call premium. And I just been buying shares, loading up on shares.
This is why TJ and I do our segment every Friday. I think it's so powerful. And TJ has been obviously a mentor to you as well. Mm-hmm. It helps you have some extra income and keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So last question for you both. Again, thank you both for joining. This is awesome. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We're going to have a cool day at the Palantir office in DC. Do you think we get into the Nasdaq today?
I mean, gut feeling, I kind of think so. I kind of think so.
Okay.
I think so too. I mean, they're very big. Like they're huge. I don't know where they're at, like in market cap size compared to all the other companies, but I think there are companies that are so much smaller than Palantir. And they're not even, I think I remember reading too that there are companies that are not even tech in the QQQ.
There's companies that are way smaller than that.
They're like a real estate company or something, or they're like a woodworking company and they're in the QQQs. So I think one of them are going to get booted out to make room for Palantir. They're too big to ignore. They're really too big to ignore at this point.
It's a worse look. If it's a worse look on them if Palantir doesn't get in.
No, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, like if the S&P 500 didn't have one of the most exciting companies on the planet inside the index, I mean, they make money off Palantir being in the index as well. It's a business, so it definitely would be exciting as well. All right, folks, that's it. Thank you all for joining. I think this is the last stream of the weekend. No Palantir Weekly today because I'm going to be gone. No Sunday Future show because I'll be coming home later Sunday night. And so Monday is when I'll see you guys in Market Open. And we're probably not doing the market close today because we'll be busy. Mm-hmm. So the news will be up. Look, I think it's at 4. Someone said it comes out at 8 p.m. I have no clue, but we'll all three be on Twitter and we'll post it immediately. So everyone's Twitter in the description. You guys will find out. And hopefully we get in. And it would be a good cap to 2024 to end off the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Love you all. We'll see you guys on Monday. All right, everyone. Have a good one.